Hello and welcome to the newest instalment of the Voices of the Vic podcast with me, Mike Duffy, Ben Aiton and Joe Thomas. But unfortunately, we are here today to talk about a home defeat, the first home defeat, in fact, since the 9th of March 2024 against that team that are becoming a bit of a bogey team at Vicarage Road, Cardiff City. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We're also going to touch a little bit about the Boxing Day triumph over Portsmouth, where Quadwo Barr saw himself sent off after the final whistle. So we've got a lot to talk about, and then we're just going to end on a bit of transfer sort of talk with the transfer window opening in 2 days' time. So a lot going on in the world of Watford coming up, but this is the first one since Christmas Day. So obviously, as I said, I'm joined by Ben and I'm joined by Joe. Gents, how were your Christmases? Ben, let's come to you first. It's great to see you on another podcast. But how was Christmas for you, mate? And how's things in general?
Yeah, everything's all good. Well, as well as they can be. Kate's not too great today. She's had a round of chemo last Friday. So she's kind of okay for a couple of days, and then it hits her. And today's the first day of it hitting her. So she's all right. She's in high spirits and that. Christmas was nice as well, lovely. Spending it with both sides of the family. And then Ida was spoiled rotten as well. But I don't know if you felt the same, Joe, as well with Christmas. Like the moment Christmas came, the behaviours of a child instantly changed because they knew that they didn't have to be nice anymore, and well behaved. So that completely switched in our household. So it's been a bit difficult the last couple of days because I think she knows she can get away with stuff, and we can't blackmail her with Santa's not going to come if you carry on behaving like that. So yeah, it's been an interesting couple of days, but yeah, all good on our front. How was your Christmas, mate? Are you all good on your side?
Yeah, thank you. Great to hear that, Christmas went as well as it could, and sorry to hear about the child behaviour. That's something that I've still got to come. I think me and Beck are to expect that in a few years maybe. But yeah, all good. It was the first one where me and Beck just spent it just ourselves. I usually go to my mum's around Christmas, but for the first time it was just me and Beck. And to be honest, we didn't do a lot, but I think that was great. On Christmas Day, I think we went to the pub about 12 o'clock, had dinner about 3 o'clock, and then we were absolutely stuffed and absolutely shattered. But we watched there was some brilliant TV, by the way. Sorry to go off on a tangent here, but the TV listings for Christmas Day, over the last few years, it's been a bit naff, but this Christmas was probably some of the best TV listings I can remember in a long time. I mean, Wallace and Gromit, followed up by Gavin and Stacey, was absolutely sublime watching. So really, really impressed with both of those. And they've also left it open for another return of Feathers McGraw as he wandered off into the distance on the train, and he wasn't arrested. So it could be another Wallace and Gromit next Christmas with him coming back. But yeah, all good here, thank you. Joe, yourself, how was Christmas for you, bud?
I thought you was going to say about Gail Platt leaving Coronation Street was great. But yeah, no, Christmas was good, thanks, mate. And as Ben rightly pointed out, the kids were, you could certainly notice the behavioural changes with the children. But no, really nice Christmas, really chilled, and yeah, it was nice to just be with family and that. So yeah, good.
Good. We are here to talk about Watford, though, and obviously I said at the top of the show there a little bit about Portsmouth. We're not going to go too in detail with we're not going to go too in detail with the Portsmouth game because it was on Boxing Day and we are now on the 30th. But we're sort of going to refer to it a little bit. And by the way, if anyone's watching on YouTube, I haven't clicked any wrong buttons or anything. I'm just trying out a new look. It might stay, it might not. And we are aware of a little bit of a delay on Ben's side, but usually those sort of things sort of patch themselves up as the podcast goes on. But let's start with the team news, because I think one thing that's frustrating us Watford fans at the moment is the performances perhaps haven't been as good recently, even at home, and even when we are winning, the performances maybe as convincing. And it's probably the formation changing of each game that's not helping things. So obviously against Portsmouth and now we saw a back four. And then against Cardiff yesterday, we saw a back three. And Cleves has actually come out and done an interview with the Watford Observer as well. And he said he tried something which he tried against Luton before the game yesterday. And that was to show a motivational video compilation of the team's goals. Before he tried it before the Luton game, didn't work. Tried it again before the Cardiff game and didn't work. So he says he'll not be trying that again. But it is frustrating, isn't it, Ben? Because like we are officially at the halfway stage of the season now. Clem should really know his best team, and I get you've got to manage the load of the players because 5 games in 15 days, but surely that's just no excuse because some of the way these players have been playing, yet they're back again in a couple of days' time, and it's just like, why aren't we? You know, we're really suffering with not picking the best team available to us, aren't we?
We are. It's just worrying. Like you say, it's worrying that Cleves is chopping and changing quite regular and doesn't really know that starting 11 that he wants to play. I know we're going through that Christmas period where he probably wants fresh legs and he wants to change it up a little bit, and then he's been changing the formation as well. But as fans, I've noticed in the last month or so, fans are being a bit more vocal with who they want to be seen in the starting lineup because we know who should probably be deserving of a spot more in this starting lineup than the players we're actually seeing. And that goes to the likes of Musa Sissoko and Edo Kiembe. It's puzzling how they become one of the first names onto a team sheet at times. Sissoko's form lately has been just awful. And I knew at the time when we were signing him, and I mentioned this at the start of the year, so if people wanted to go back and have a look, they can. I didn't rate the signing at all because I wasn't massively impressed by him last time he was at the club. Now, he was coming back 2 years later where he's obviously aged more. But I don't like how he conducts himself on the football pitch. He's not the club captain. That's Daniel Batman still, but he's the captain on the football pitch, and he's not leading by example. For a guy who's vastly experienced, he looks very inexperienced when he plays because all he does is hide behind players, points at players of where he wants to get the ball. Whenever he receives the ball, he slows it down and passes it backwards. He never really wants to travel with the ball. So yeah, sorry, I've gone on a massive tangent here. I've done a Mike Duffy special, but he's just been the most frustrating players for me. And if Cleves can't see this, then it's really concerning, really, because he shouldn't be anywhere near the starting 11. And this goes back to Cam at the start of the season. Cam was the only one on this podcast who called it, saying we needed another centre midfielder. And we all kind of like shrugged it off and laughed him off. But he called it straight away at the end of that transfer window. And I think he's been proven right here as well. As much as a good talent Duomo is, he's not ready to be starting week in, week out in the Championship. He needs more games under his belt. So we need like a ready-made centre midfielder to come in. So, but also for right back area as well. Like, I don't get why Eboseli doesn't get more of a look in. Like, I would have played him ahead of Ryan Andrews for sure. Ngakia, maybe when you want to be a bit more defensive, I think Ngakia's that first choice. But when you want to be attacking teams, especially teams who haven't won away from home all season like Cardiff City, you've got to be playing a right wing back like Festi Eboseli.
Absolutely, and you're right to point that out as well, actually, Ben. And I'm glad you've pointed that out about Cardiff not winning all season, because I have got a few stats about the game. So I mentioned at the top of the show that Cardiff are becoming a bit of a bogey team for Watford at Vicarage Road. We've actually only won 2 of the last 9 home games against Cardiff, and the last time that we beat Cardiff at home in the Championship was the 28th of December, 2010. We last beat them at home when it was in the Premier League, and I think one of the goals actually got voted the favourite Christmas goal. I think Cam voted it on the Christmas special. So we obviously beat them then, but that was in the Prem. So 2010, you have to go back, and you guys will remember this as well, because I actually remember sitting on the podcast talking about this game that I'm going to mention with Ben. That season in lockdown where we had such impeccable home record and we were really, really strong at home. And who was one of the very few teams to come to Vicarage Road that season and win? It was Cardiff City. So it's really, they really are becoming a bit of a bogey team for us. As Ben mentioned, that's their first away win of the season as well. And their first win full stop since the 2nd of November, where they beat Norwich at home. And it's the fourth scoreline of 2-1 in a row, 4 in a row games where it's been a scoreline of 2-1. Watford winning 2 of them and losing 2 of them. So they're quite close games on paper, but I mean, we barely laid a glove on them yesterday. But Joe, Ben's mentioned a couple of things there already, which we've actually got noted down, and we've got a few comments as well. So thanks for the comments, guys. We will get round to mentioning them. And thanks for watching and getting involved as well. But obviously, the team selection, we talk about the ever-changing sort of formation. But in terms of the team selection, would you say Clevs is getting it wrong? I mean, Ben mentioned a few people there. Sissoko and Kayembe playing in that middle. Duomo perhaps hasn't got the experience, as Ben's rightly pointed out. And we saw Chuck out on the left yesterday. I think Mark Schofield's put something here to say that he would actually, he said Chuck could play deeper where he thinks he's more effective than stuck on the left. And then Philip Crouch also said that Chuck Fadadze looks knackered and needs to be rested. Now, for me, Chuck Fadadze he's not a wide left player. You need to play him centrally. So the reason I said Jack then is because they call him the Georgian Jack Grealish, and Jack Grealish is the same. Can't play him out on the left. He's more effective down the middle, as Man City are finding out at the moment. But yeah, a lot of sort of square pegs in round holes. And yeah, is he getting the team selection wrong for you guys?
Yeah, 100%, mate. Yeah, like, you know, as Ben mentioned, I can't understand like how it isn't obvious. Like in a flat back 4, like he played yesterday, and Ngakia is the perfect player to play at right back, and Ngakia has been playing like in the game since he's come back. He's been playing well. I can't understand why Ngakia didn't get a game. Larouci plays well when he plays in the back 5. Again, when he plays him as the person in a flat back 4, I just don't think it works. And you know, if you're going to do that, then like he did the other week against, I can't remember who it was now. Where did Morris come in that flat back 4? He was the game before Burnley, wasn't it?
Yes, that was.
It wasn't Portsmouth, was it?
No, it wasn't Portsmouth. Portsmouth was Boxing Day. The game before West Brom.
West Brom, yeah. So if you're going to do that, then you know, bring in Morris again. Like I don't. If you know, we're suffering big time, I think, with the team changing all the time. And a conversation I had with my friend when we were walking back to the station yesterday is, we're not saying that you can't do it. I'm sure he's probably doing things in training with these players, and he's preparing for each game as they come. Obviously, he's probably doing bits in the weeks leading up to it, rather than obviously Portsmouth is done, let's do this. He's probably forward planning, but there's only so much you can do. Like, I don't get how you can chop and change so much. And playing Sissoko, I just honestly, like, Duomo hasn't really played much lately. Like, he could have easily come in yesterday. It was a perfect game for him yesterday in midfield, I thought. Give him some game time. It's just not working with Moussa Sissoko in midfield. Like, he just, in fairness to him yesterday, although again he wasn't great, and neither was Kayembe. It was, as I've said, I think it's Kayembe's worst game I've ever seen him in a Watford shirt. Right from the first few minutes, he was committing fouls. He was losing the ball. He was getting dispossessed. Didn't look comfortable at all. Sissoko was the one that got pushed upfield because, you know, Vata obviously came off, didn't he? Sissoko went into a more advanced role, but it was just the same thing every time. The ball was going forward and Sissoko going to the corner, and then we'd go nowhere. And then it was, oh, we've got a throw in. And then it was, oh, we're going to try something from a long throw in. But it just, nothing seemed to click yesterday. And it's been a long, long time since we've seen a Watford team look as disjointed as it was yesterday.
Yeah, a really, really frustrating game. And you make such a good point about Ngakia, because he was playing some real good football since probably some of his best since he regained fitness. And like that's the Ngakia that we signed back in the lockdown season from West Ham. I remember sitting on these podcasts with Ben, and all we did for the first few weeks of the season was talk about how good this lad that we'd signed from West Ham was. And then he got his place taken by Kiko, who had a phenomenal season that season. So he was very unlucky, also unlucky with injury that season as well. So to have him back and to be able to have a run of games, because he's not injured, he just got dropped. Granted, he was on the bench yesterday against Cardiff, but I've no idea why he was dropped for the Cardiff game, because for me, Ben, that just made sense. I'm sorry to say this, but Andrews, for me, I just don't see defensively what he offers the team. And I think Ngakia should have been starting that game yesterday. Do you agree, Ben? Or like you said earlier, would you have maybe thrown, if it was, obviously we were playing a back three yesterday, what would you have gone with? Would you have gone with Ngakia, or would you have gone with Fester?
It's difficult. I think the whole Bar situation's changed the formation for Watford. I think if Bar was available, we would have I think a 4 would have suited us better. But without Bar, I think a 5 would have sorted back. Because when you're playing a 4 at the back, then you can fit maybe a Chapadassi down the middle, Vata on the left, Bar on the right. We didn't have that option, so we had to kind of revert back to a back 4. But that means, yeah, like you say, Ngakia is the best right back at the club, because he's much more solid, and he's not a wing back, is he? That suits like playing the 5 at the back where he's getting up and down like maybe a Fessi Ebiseli or a Ryan Andrews. But Ryan Andrews for me has just been so inconsistent, and he just blows hot and cold too often. And defensively, there's a lot of issues in his games still, and he's very rash at times, and we saw that yesterday. Okay, it was a loose ball played back to him, but he was lucky that it was only a yellow card that he picked up on that really strong challenge he made on that Cardiff player. I think Ododo, I think he made the challenge on. And he's got that about him a little bit. The only thing that Ryan Andrews has got to his game really is either the long throw, or when he's galloping into the box and he can hit it across the goalkeeper into that corner. Other than that, I don't think there's too much of his game. But playing a team like Cardiff at home, I'd want to be a bit more attacking. So I would have liked us to maybe go to a 5 at the back yesterday, bomb the proper wing backs forward. You would have got the better out of Larucci on the left hand side as well, who was atrocious. There were so many players yesterday that we could probably name who were absolutely stinking a place out. I don't think many players could maybe hold their head up high, apart from young Rocco Vata. I don't think anyone else maybe came away with it with any plaudits.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that in a little bit, because there's another player who I think deserves a mention, but I think because of the players he had around him, he maybe didn't look as effective as he has done in previous games, but he still did all right. But yeah, I mean, Larucci absolutely stunk the gaff out yesterday, along with a number of other players who are called out on Twitter. But Larucci, for me, I just don't know what he offers. Some games, going forward, he's great, but it's almost like he gets to the edge of the 18-yard box and he just doesn't take the option, the straightforward option. And he's crossing into the box is horrendous as well. I mean, the amount of times he got so much joy on that left-hand side and so much space as well, and we just didn't use it. And he'd put a cross in and he didn't beat the first man, or he was trying to mix it up too much and he just couldn't get the perfect cross in. So really, really frustrating. And Mark Schofield said, to be fair, regarding Ngakia, Andrews and Ebiseli, you could flip a coin. Ngakia is probably the strongest defender, Andrews the quickest and the best going forward, and Ebiseli is kind of in between the two. I think that's pretty fair to say. And he also said about that midfield, because yes, Kayembe and Sissoko are really, really having a poor run of form at the moment. But in fairness, we don't really have anyone else because Tom Bashiru's out injured. Duomo and Mark Schofield, again, he picked up on this. He said, the problem is Kayembe blows hot or cold. Ince can't play in the two. Duomo's not quite ready. And Tom Bashiru's got a serious knee problem. And I think he's absolutely spot on. You know, we obviously want to see Duomo more. And yes, I do actually think yesterday would have suited him better because I'm probably going to get a few, if any Cardiff fans get hold of this video, I'm probably going to get a few comments. But other than, I know you have to score your chances and they did exactly that, but I don't think they were that good yesterday. I think we were just as poor as they were and they just happened to get 2 goals, on the break sort of thing. So I don't think they played an overall good game. They sort of were all right they didn't need to do loads to see the game out because of how poor we were. And I actually think if Loser had a better midfield partner yesterday, we would have bossed that game in midfield. But
do you know what the main issue about yesterday was though? It was conceding with inside 1 minute. And the moment that happened, Cardiff just were happy to stick everyone behind the ball. Like they're going to come to Vicarage Road anyway because it's a fortress. Watford have done well there. But getting that early goal, it gave them something to hold on to and to defend. And then the moment we equalised, they caught us out again, and then they sat back again, and it just stopped any momentum that we had yesterday, and we couldn't break them down. And we've seen this. We struggled to do that. We struggled against Portsmouth the other day. We was very fortunate to get that penalty in the second half, and then we kind of found our luck. But yesterday, and I think you've tweeted about this before, Mike, by saying how luck's been on our side, but yesterday the luck ran out for Watford.
I think that's spot on. And Philip Crouch said something similar, which hits an nail on the head. As great as the run has been, Philip says here, we've scraped a lot of home wins and draws, not playing well. It was only a matter of time when this wasn't going to happen. And yeah, the luck ran out yesterday. I mean, I even when we went 1-0 down, like you say, it's so difficult. But I always have that glimmer of hope, even going 1-0 down so early on, because we're at home. I think, right, we are going to get back into this. And I'll be honest, Chuck's goal sort of come out of nothing, and I didn't think we played particularly well up until that point. And I mean, Bio, he didn't make an impact at all, considering how his form has been recently at the Vic. But when we got that goal to 1-1, I thought, right, this is fine. You know, we'll either kick on and get another goal, or it's a draw, and you know, we still scrape by the skin of our teeth with this magnificent home record. But I think Tom Cleverley said in his post-match comments, he hit the nail on the head by saying the timings of both goals were horrendous. To concede in the first minute, to then equalise and then concede, a minute or two later, that really kicked us. And it was right before the stroke of half-time as well. And it really, really can sort of change the balance of the game. And our friend has said, good evening. Evening, Ant. Hope you're well, buddy. He says, hope you've all had a good Christmas and Happy New Year. You too, mate. Warwick, I have just seen your comment. We will get round to that at the end of the show. Joe, one thing I want to ask you is another man who I thought had a really poor game yesterday. He's first in a while, to be fair, is Ryan Porteous. I think I counted 5 times he gave the ball away sloppily, or maybe overplayed a pass which saw the ball go out. Or drilled it at a teammate, which made it ridiculously hard for them to control the ball. I just thought his game was all round sloppy yesterday. So we saw at half time that CRL to come on, and it was a like-for-like change. What did you think of that? Because Ogbonna was on the bench, and Ogbonna's back from injury. Would you have preferred to go to Ogbonna, and then obviously that would have moved Pollock over to the right side where he seems a lot more comfortable? Or was you happy with the CRL? You might be sitting there thinking, no, CRL was fine. What's your thoughts on
that? You know, sorry, just I will go on to that in a second. And you obviously mentioning about the timings of the goals. I actually don't. That doesn't annoy me as much as probably some others. What annoyed me most was the manner of the goals. They weren't good goals. They were really uncharacteristic defending from us. Like, we are bad at defending at times, I will admit that, But yesterday, to give them the space that Callum Robinson had in the box yesterday for that first, obviously I think I saw the closest person to him was Pollock, and he was miles away. He literally had the freedom of Watford for that first one. And the second one, I don't know what happened. Everyone just switched off. I mean, it was appalling. But going, excuse me, to your point on Porteous, yeah, I mean, I was really, really surprised at just how bad he was. And one of the things that, I mean, I had to love, I'm sure everyone else had a bit of a giggle at it, but I don't know if people remember, but he had a situation in the first half where he was given time to run with the ball past the halfway line. And he had an easy pass, what looked like an easy pass to Ryan Andrews down the wing. And as soon as he passed it to a Cardiff player, I was like, this is going to be the worst day ever. And it literally ended up being like, it was just, yeah, I don't really know what to sort of say about Porteous overall, because usually he's Mr. Reliable. He's been Mr. Reliable for the last couple of weeks. And I think things usually start out from the back. And because the defenders weren't all there yesterday, it then seemed to sort of go forward within the team. And it just made everybody else look bad. With Pollock, I would have 100% moved him over. Serialta's not been great for me when he's come into the side. I would have 100%, knowing the experience that Ogbonna brings in a game like yesterday when we were struggling, it would have been perfect for him to just shore things up at the back. It would have probably brought a bit of a calmness. Obviously, Cardiff didn't concede in the second half, granted, so Serialta didn't put a foot wrong. I just think it would have been the better option. Obviously, he didn't want to lose face, Cleves, yesterday, because if he'd have brought on two centre halves, then obviously it would have been that he was going to the back three with the two wing backs, and obviously he didn't want to change formation. So the safest thing was just to change over one of the defenders, which, you know, he had to do it because Porto was so bad. But yeah, it was the wrong one for me, in my opinion. I don't know what anybody else thinks. If anybody else agrees with it, then obviously it'd be good to see. But yeah, that was my overall opinion on that sub yesterday.
And Ben, what was you thinking when that sub was made?
Firstly, on Ryan Porteous, I think he's had a really good month for Watford. I think he's been really good enough. He used to be a player that blew hot and cold, and he had a lot of rashness about him. But I think that's all calmed down since Paul Robinson's came in, and he's looked very trusted at the back, and that partnership's just blossoming with Pollock. But yeah, he did struggle yesterday, and I'm going to put that down to maybe the midfielders not helping him out as well. Our midfielders don't really want to receive the ball other than Imran Louza. But when Cardiff are pushed up onto him and they know how effective that he can be, that they're sniffing him out. And then there's only Moussa Sissoko maybe free, but he doesn't want to pass to Sissoko because Sissoko just points at someone else. So I think that's why he maybe struggled a little bit yesterday. But with the substitution, my only thinking why he brought on Serialta over Ogbonna is how ragged Callum Robinson ran Pollock and Porteous yesterday with his pace. I think he was concerned about being hit on a counter and didn't want Ogbonna to be chasing him down. I think the pace of Ogbonna kind of made that decision for him, and he didn't want to put him on at that point. If we was playing the back three, I think Ogbonna would have been a better choice to bring on, but because it was a back four, I think it was better to put on Serialta. And look, I know Serialta turns like a bus at times, but I think he's slightly faster than Ogbonna.
Yes. No, I think you're right. And just quickly, going forward, QPR on New Year's Day, 2 days' time. Are you Ben? I'll come to you first. Are you maybe bringing Ogbonna in then, or are you bringing Morris in? Are you going with a back three? Are you going with a back four? What you thinking defensive wise? QPR going to be a tough game. They're going to be bang up for it. I mean, I know they picked up a little bit of form after drawing with us. I don't know how they've been the last couple. Well, you'll probably know better than anyone, Ben. But they'll be bang up for it either way, and we're crap away from home. So, what are you doing defensively?
I don't think it matters what we do defensively. It's what we do with that midfield too. But yeah, defensively, if Bar's available, I think we go for a back four and we try to make Chap, Bar and Vata available in the team.
Yeah.
But Vata was substituted off because he was nursing a calf injury. So is he going to be available or not? So I'm going to go for a back four. But I don't think we're going to be seeing Ogbonna until maybe the FA Cup game. He's just came back from a nasty injury. I don't think you want to risk him and risk picking up another injury. You got to remember that age is on his side. There was a reason why he was released from West Ham, and it's probably because he's not at it week in, week out Premier League level, and he's dropped down to the Championship. So we need to be careful with his minutes. I'm going to say Ogbonna's going to probably remain on the bench for that one. Maybe we might see Cyril to come back in if he wants to rest. Maybe Ryan Porteous. We saw him have a spell on the bench at the start of the season, and Cyril was starting. So potentially we could see that.
Yeah, Joe.
I'm probably going to. I think he's going to go back three with the two wing backs. I think I'd expect to see. I actually think Porto might get dropped. I know it's a bit controversial, but I think he might get dropped. I could actually see. I could actually probably see maybe Ogbonna starting, maybe Ogbonna, Morris, and Pollock at the back.
Okay.
And then play. I actually wouldn't mind seeing. Then it probably obviously have to be Larouci if Morris is playing in the left side of the back. So Larouci playing, then Ebisele maybe on the right, because I don't think he'll play Andrews. But then it could be nice to see Ebisele on the left and then play Ngakia. So he's got options. But yeah, I know we don't obviously want him to keep chopping and changing. But yeah, I think he could. But just on your point, it's one defeat in 9 for QPR.
Oh, okay. I didn't quite realise
that was a defeat away at Swansea on Boxing Day. They've been on a good run of form, picked up 4 points over Norwich, an away draw at Bristol City, and then they've beaten teams around them. They beat Cardiff away. And there's a few draws in there, but still, nonetheless, it's still one defeat in 9. So
I watched that game when I was away at Swansea because I was around the in-laws and they're all QPR around there. So I was on my phone watching the Watford-Portsmouth game, and on the big screen was the QPR game away at Swansea. And we've seen Watford collapses, and that was very similar to what QPR did in that opening half an hour. They couldn't handle Swansea, and it was nice to see his side go to the Liberty Stadium and not get a sniff on the ball. You know how Swansea just keep the ball, rotate it, and you can't get near them. And QPR struggled as much as what we've seen Watford do there as well. So that's encouraging for this weekend, but it's a shame we don't have midfielders to ping it about like Swansea do.
Yeah, if only. Mark says that if Tom reverts to wing-backs at QPR, which he thinks he will, Mark would go with Ogbonna in the middle, Sierra on the right and Pollock on the left. Porto deserves to be dropped. I mean, if he was to go with a back three, I wouldn't be against Morris playing, but then that means that Pollock would have to be over on that right-hand side, which I'm not. Yeah.
Pollock's got to go in the middle, really, as a back three, don't you? You do Ogbonna on the left, Pollock in the centre, and then you do Porter on the right, wouldn't you, really? Or Sirielta on the right.
So, yeah, if Porto was dropped, then Sierra on the right. Yeah, because Ogbonna as a sort of central focal point, you sort of want your quicker of the three, if you like, to be the middleman, don't you? So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'd be tempted to bring Morris in. I think Morris has done a solid job, only in a back three though. I'd like to stress that point because as a left back, I just don't think he's cut out for it anymore. One man I mentioned earlier, you said, Ben, that not many players can come out of that game, yesterday's game, looking good. One man I mentioned who I thought looked as best as he could, but then the players around him just didn't help, was Loser. I think it's crazy to think. I was sat there at times. He was pinging balls, doing what Capu used to do, spraying balls across the pitch and everything. And I was thinking, we almost sold this player, and it was almost like the Doucouré story, where Doucouré was going to be sold, and then he come on as a sub against Southampton, and then you saw we didn't look back. And then Loser again, I think it was similar. I think he only come into the squad because of injury, and we've not looked back since. And he's been one of the first names on the team sheet. He really, really struggled yesterday because of who he had around him, didn't he? But as best as he could, I think he did as best as he could. Do you agree?
Well, I've never really been the biggest Imran Loser fan, and I've always been quite critical of him. And I've obviously been off a podcast for quite a while now, so I've not really been able to have a say on his performances and that. But credit where credit's due. I think he's been outstanding when he's came back, and this is what's frustrated me about Imran Loser, because there's a player in there. We've not seen enough of it. So credit to him and Tom Cleverley for actually getting the best out of him. But what I'm also thinking is, are we just seeing this Imran Loser because there's 18 months left on his contract? Is he obviously trying to put himself in a shop window? Is he trying to get a new contract? Or is it just down to Tom Cleverley and Imran Loser getting a really good partnership together and they're working well together? It would be more impressive if Imran Loser had a decent midfield partner next to him. Imagine that, if like Imran Loser's a bit of a Rolls Royce in that sitting defensive midfield at the moment, and he's pinging the balls about, like you say, like Etienne Capoue. But if he had a midfield partner with him that can actually break up play, how much stronger would he look, and how much stronger would we look as a team? And this is why it goes back to what you've said, Mike, why he struggled yesterday, and it's because he hasn't got that partner in midfield, and you feel sorry for him. And if I'm honest, I think he was lucky not to pick up a second yellow card yesterday. The ref could have easily been persuaded to give him a second yellow card there, because it was right in front of the Cardiff dugout. Cardiff players were swarming around the ref trying to get that second yellow card, and Tom had to substitute him, didn't he, really, otherwise he would have got his marching orders later on in the game. But yeah, he was probably the only one to maybe walk off the pitch with his head held up high yesterday, because he's been so impressive. His attitude and his body language is second to none to what it was maybe at the start of the season or the end of last season. He's unrecognisable, and I'm all for this new Imran Loser.
Yeah, well, I was going to say it's quite the opposite to what was being reported under Valerian Ismail. He's completely redeemed himself, and one of the first names on the team sheet. And I think we'd all be disappointed, probably, because of the midfield crisis we've got at the moment. But we'd certainly be disappointed with all. Even if we had all midfielders fully fit, we'd be disappointed if he wasn't one of the first names on the team sheet. So, and you can tell how much every game means to him as well. I remember, I think that QPR game, he sort of collapsed to the floor at the full-time whistle. There's been another couple of games, I think, when I was at Hull, he did it against Hull. And yeah, I think Clev's alluded to it yesterday, took him off because he had a bit of a knock, and he was on thin ice because he got a yellow card. And with that ref yesterday, usually, I stick up for refs, having been one for a number of years, but Sam Allison, it was pathetic, considering he's a Premier League referee now as well. He was one of the ones that was fast-tracked. I think he was an ex-player at like non-league, League 2 level, so I think he was fast-tracked. And yeah, not a good game for the referee yesterday, and I think he disrupted the flow of the game, and yeah, was very inconsistent. Joe, we'll talk about another player who usually is someone that lights up the stage for Watford. He scored yesterday, finally. It seems like forever since he scored. Well, I think the last goal he scored was the first game of the season, if I'm not corrected. Chapfordadze finally got his goal at home. But again, I found myself at various points yesterday screaming, why haven't you shot, or why have you passed that? Because it was another frustrating performance from Chapfordadze yesterday, wasn't it? Really, really frustrating.
Yeah, it was. But it's not just those situations. It's just, runs with the ball. There was a couple of times in the first half when he's driving forward and he just needs to pass, and he doesn't. He holds on to the ball too long and he gets dispossessed. Like, if he passed the ball quicker, we'd have so many more opportunities, and we'd have so much that it'd open up so much more space. But because he keeps the ball close to him, which I'm not saying he's bad at doing, he's one of the best in the league. There's no question about that. But it gives defenders a chance to set themselves when he keeps the ball too long. We need. One of the things I've always said about Watford is we're never quick enough with passing. You watch other teams and you watch how they pass the ball around, triangular passing. They get out from the back and stuff in difficult situations. We don't do that enough. We're very slow. We're not as quick as other teams sometimes when we're coming to counter. But, yesterday there was that opportunity on the edge of the box where he was on his right foot and he had a chance to shoot. But yeah, he decided to do some little 1-2 with Kayembe. And then the chance closed down, and then the chance has gone. For me, I mean, Tom says if he adds goals to his game, he'd get into a top 4 team. I don't think he's in my opinion, since he's made that comment, I wouldn't have him anywhere near a top half Premier League team. I don't think he's anywhere near ready. I'm not saying that isn't me digging him out, saying he's not good enough. He's not going to be good enough. I definitely believe there is a player there. I just don't think there's a player there right now. I think there's a lot that he needs to develop in his game. And you can see he cares, you can see he tries, but he needs to be more of a team player for me. And he's trying to be too much of an individual at the moment still. And I don't like that.
Yeah, it's quite ironic because since Cleverley says he needs to add more goals to his game, the amount of times he's got into positions where if he just hit it like we know he can, he just doesn't anymore. And yeah, it's so frustrating. And like you said, the amount of times he was in a position where he passed and he shouldn't have, or he should have had a shot sooner. Like I said, I lost count the amount of times he was doing that thing, like picking it up on the left and off Larouci and then driving in, and it almost opened up inch perfect for him to hit it and try and curl it in, and like we've seen him do before. And he just thought, no, I'll take an extra touch, or no, I'll go back. And yeah, very, very frustrating. But from one frustrating performance to quite the opposite, Ben, a bright spark out of a very poor performance yesterday. Another goal involvement for Rocco Vata. What a player he's becoming. And we all said on this podcast, when he gets his first goal for Watford, the confidence will flow. I was there at that game the other week against Hull. He got his first Watford goal. He then scored the winner against Portsmouth for his first goal at Vicarage Road. He got 2 assists for Vacuum Bio in the 2-1 win over West Brom. And then he got the assist for Chapverdadze yesterday. So 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 goal involvements in the last few games. He really is going to be something special in the future. Are you a little bit worried that we might be overusing him, or are you like, no, sod that? If he's on form at the moment, let's keep playing him?
Well, supposedly towards the back end of last season for Celtic, he had quite a big-ish injury that was never really publicised, and that's why he hasn't really had much minutes in pre-season and also starting games for Watford. I think he's kind of been managed correctly, and that's why Tom hasn't really thrown him into the action. But 5 goals involvements from a 19-year-old who's just moved down to, from Scotland to England is incredible. He's such a talent. He's another bums off seats kind of guy. He can drop a shoulder and lose his man. And that's what he did yesterday with the assist. And it was a lovely ball into a box just over the head of Sissoko. But there was Jack, whatever you want to call him, to put it in the back of the net. And it's refreshing to see that we've given these youngsters opportunities, but also we're plucking homegrown players from the UK now, aren't we, out of other teams' academies, and we're getting them in, giving them the opportunity. And he's really shining. But I am slightly concerned that Tom substituted him yesterday, and our game kind of stopped when Vata went off the pitch yesterday. And if he is nursing a calf injury like Tom's alluded to, that could be a worry. I don't think we're probably going to see him at QPR off the back of that. What's it, like 3-4 days turnaround? Not even that, probably. So he'll probably be out. So Yeah, but he was very promising yesterday. But it's our attacking threat stopped when he left the pitch yesterday, and I wished, and I think Tom's actually said this as well. There's a lot of things that Rocco Vata can learn from Geordie Chatfideski, but one thing that Geordie Chatfideski can learn from Rocco Vata is his instinctiveness to get into the box to finish off the chances like he did against Portsmouth, but also release the ball quicker like Rocco Vata does. Georgie wants to do it all on his own. He wants to be the star man. Rocco Vata is a bit more of a team player where he's happy to offload the ball and get the ball into the box quickly. Like Joe says, we're not quick enough to get balls into the boxes or move the ball quick enough. Rocco Vata is that, and so is Quadro Bar. And it's these younger, inexperienced players that have no fear and they want to play it quicker. The more experienced players take an extra touch when they shouldn't need to sometimes because I think they've got more time on their hands. Where Vata and Bar, they're playing on the beach in Sao Paulo with their mates. But yeah, it's great to see these youngsters get these opportunities, and we've got to remember he's only 19. We've got to ease him in still. He can't be the first name on the team sheet, even though he's probably one of the most technically gifted players that we've got here who can create things out of nothing. But we've just got to ease in him and get him little bits of pieces here and there, and he will be a big player for Watford in years to come.
Yeah, and let's not forget as well, after that goal against Hull, cleverly actually labelled him as the best finisher at the club. So a lot of responsibility on the young man's shoulders, but he really is sort of shining through at the moment, and long may that continue. And I think the press conference for QPR will probably be tomorrow, unless anything's been said tonight, which I don't think it has. I did check before we went live. So it'll be interesting to see quite how bad that knock is. But yes, I perhaps don't expect to see him against QPR, which is a little bit disappointing. Maybe we see Ince. If we do have that sort of free behind the striker, maybe we see Ince. But one man who I've sort of been saving to speak about him, and I think Mark Schofield asked the question as well earlier. And I'm sure a lot of the people that are watching at the moment are quite intrigued to know. Daniel Jefferson. So, Joe, Boxing Day, he had quite a good game, to be fair. I think that was the best. Maybe we saw him in a Watford shirt. I think he looked hungry. He chased the ball down a lot. Maybe the hold-up play isn't quite there yet. And, you know, Bio probably has his number on him for that, albeit Bio's not amazing at it. But that probably tells you a lot you need to know. And you sort of come away from that Portsmouth game. Yes, he missed that chance early doors. That's a confidence thing for me. And then I think he missed the chance where it didn't fall to his feet, and maybe the keeper got a nick of it and it took it away. That is down to confidence, because this lad's confidence is in the shitter big time. But I think he come away from that performance sort of, you know, Watford fans maybe felt a little bit better about him. You know, he's getting a lot of stick at the moment on social media. But yeah, I think he did well against Portsmouth. And I think a lot of fans let's start Jefferson yesterday against Cardiff. He didn't. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on there. Bio started instead. Jefferson, come on, can't remember what minute, but he had a golden opportunity, and I really, really mean golden, to equalise. Ryan Andrews, long throw. I think Sierra wins a flick on or Pollock, and he's at the back post. All he needs to do is head it. Do you know what? He just needs to get a cleaner connection on it. Doesn't matter where it hits his head, just a cleaner connection and it goes in. For me, I've said it before we start recording, it's criminal how he's not scored that. It really is. And I've tried to defend him as best as I can, but it is absolutely criminal that he's not scored that goal to equalise for us. Look, we might have gone on and lost 3-2, but we will never know. And what a chance that was. And we've said in this podcast how, you know, there's been previous games at home where you come away and you think, bloody hell, we were lucky to draw that, but we continue to be unbeaten at home. QPR, for example, we were crap, but we got a draw and the run continued. So, you know, we might well have scraped the point with Jefferson scoring his first Watford goal, but for God's sake, he's destined not to score for Watford. How can it be so different from Boxing Day with a lot of people saying he needs to start against Cardiff? And yeah, I mean, Joe, what are your thoughts on Jefferson? Because for me now, I mean, Clevs did an interview with Andrew French, and it sounds like he's actually going to stick around. But for me, I don't know where to go from here with Jefferson. I really don't.
Well, I'm gonna go back to something I mentioned during the Luton game, on the Luton podcast. Is he did have a very good game against Portsmouth. He was given an opportunity, albeit I do believe that he came in because I think that Sissoko and Bayo were the two players that Cleverly was talking about, the experienced players in the team that didn't hold up their end of the bargain at Burnley, so they were rightly dropped from the side. But Jefferson came in and Jefferson played really well. I'm not saying he was fantastic and it was a man of the match performance, but you know, the things like the opening 5 minutes when he had the opportunity where he knocked the ball over Marlon Pack's head and ran through and he had the chance. Obviously, it was straight to the keeper, but you know, when do you ever see Bayo do that to anybody? I don't think I've seen Bayo do that ever. Those little bursts of pace, the effort where he runs into the corner and chases things down, the actual want to try hard and do well. That's what Jefferson brings to the team, which Bayo doesn't for me. Like, Bayo just thinks he should be in the team and he's got some God-given rule that he should start every week. And you don't see the same level of effort as what Jefferson gives. And when I mentioned something I said in the Luton game is that if Jefferson had started again yesterday on the back of his performance against Portsmouth, I believe he would have scored yesterday. I believe the reason he didn't score is because yet again, Cleverly has brought him on in a game where the whole team is playing shit, and you're then expecting a player that is low on confidence to turn a game around. And it isn't going to happen. You know, he brought on Vata, Jefferson and someone else in that Luton game. And I said, yes, they're good players, but they're not going to turn a game around when the experienced players that are already on the pitch aren't playing well. We weren't playing well yesterday. Yes, he had that chance. It's unforgivable. He shouldn't have gone with his head. He should have gone with his feet. When you watch it back, there's no way he should have gone with his head. It was not an opportunity that was there to be headed in. It was there for his left foot. If he'd have gone with his left foot and had missed it, I'd have probably been a bit more forgiving because he probably would have had a better chance. And the keeper may have saved it, may have gone out for a corner, but to completely fluff it like he did, it just made him look a little bit silly. But I don't blame him. Like, the poor guy is low on confidence. I want him to do well. I've heard nothing but good things about him. I really do hope that in maybe 12 games time, if he is sticking around, that Tom will actually just give him a run of games in the team. Because if after, I've seen people going, oh, he's played 13 games for us now. Well, I think he's started 4 games, and he's got a few minutes here and there. That's not enough for still me to say he ain't good enough, because you can't keep the games that he's brought him on are, a game he started, Norwich away, we were awful. He come on against Luton, we were awful. Obviously, Portsmouth he started the other day, he played well. Yesterday he came on and he didn't do very well, but there were other situations where at least he was running after the ball and trying to win the ball back, and just wasn't getting that luck. But just again, like you said, Mike, at the beginning, like, what did Bayo bring in that first half? I don't remember him doing anything other than maybe
he didn't.
Two passes where I think he did really well to maybe, I think there was one where he held the ball up and he passed it down the wing to Chak or Larouci. And it came to something in the box. But overall, again, he just doesn't offer anything. He's got no pace. He's got no want to run after the ball. It's really frustrating because obviously he scored 9 goals. Obviously 4 of them were in one game. Mm-hmm. But I genuinely don't get what he brings to this team. We're obviously going to talk about it at the end, but we need a striker. We need a striker. I'm not saying we need a striker to replace. I actually would bring in a striker to actually play alongside Jefferson, and I would play 2 up front for the rest of the season. Because I reckon if Jefferson played alongside someone, and even if Jefferson played alongside Bio, I reckon that would suit him a lot better than what he's doing to him at the moment. Because I don't think the system is suiting Jefferson at all at the moment. So I really do hope the Watford fans I know a lot of them might not see this, but people just need to get off his back and support him.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, you've mentioned a lot of things there, and I think there's a lot to be said. I mean, it was so frustrating for me yesterday because, like I said, to defend him as much, because I've just had a look while you were talking then about the games he's played and, you know, trying to work out games that he's started in and games that he hasn't. And you look, and I think he started against, as you said, he started against Norwich. I was at that game, and he started against Middlesbrough. But let me just read out some of the minutes he's got. So his debut, he come on, 22 minutes he got against Sheffield United, and he was booked. That, by the way, I have never heard an opposition player, ex-player of theirs as well, get the abuse that he got. He got absolutely hounded, and they got in his head big time. So, yeah, he got 22 minutes there. Then he got 28 minutes against Cov. Started and played 70 minutes against Norwich, got a booking. 22 minutes in the Sunderland win. Started the game, only played an hour against Middlesbrough. Played 40 minutes against Luton. And then he wasn't in the squad for the next 2 games. And then over the next 3 games, he got a total of 11 minutes. He got 2 against Sheffield Wednesday, 8 against Swansea, and 1 minute against Oxford. He was then dropped for 3 games and injured for Hull. And then he played 4 minutes against West Brom, 20 minutes against Burnley, and then he played 82 minutes against Portsmouth, and he played 33 minutes yesterday against Cardiff. So, like you've said, Joe, on the whole, he's played a lot of minutes, either the last dregs of the few minutes where, you know, the game's pretty much done, or he's come on in a game where we're chasing the game and we're playing crap. So I would like to see him start more games, but I do have a soft spot for Bio. I just think, you mentioned there about how Jefferson works hard. I think Bio works hard, but then again, like many at the moment, they're blowing so hot and cold. I think Bio, for what it's worth, actually, I might get a bit of stick for this. I think Bio's actually improved on his hold-up play and bringing others into play and dropping deep and getting others into play. That's one thing I've noticed with Bio. Like I say, that won't, you know, that won't probably be in agreement with a lot of fans. But Mark Schofield says, Jefferson and Bio in a 2. Who would you drop and what formation would you be playing? I presume Joe was thinking of a 4-4-2, which wouldn't be against the normality of how, a lot of teams, well, not a lot of teams set up anymore, but a 4-4-2, you know, I wouldn't be against it, especially if this formation and this team isn't going to be working over the next few weeks. Who knows? But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Ben, I mean, Joe obviously spoke magnificently then against the Jefferson situation. Have you got anything to add? What are your thoughts on the whole Jefferson situation?
Like Melanie, I agree with everything that Joe's pretty much said. I believe that if he did go with that left foot as well, Joe, I think he would have had a better chance. I think when he went for the head, he saw the keeper coming straight at him and then kind of chickened out a little bit. And I again agree with Joe. I think coming off the bench in a game where you need him to score with someone who's low on confidence, it's not going to work really for a guy like Jefferson. I think Tom Cleverley, he's got to take a lot of criticism for how he set up yesterday, the formation, the starting lineup, the tactics. And I think one of them was dropping Daniel Jefferson, especially after how he played against Portsmouth. His best performance by far in a Watford shirt. he needed that confidence to be given that starting shirt for the game against Cardiff. And I believe that he would have tested the Cardiff backline much more than what Bio did, who was non-existent again yesterday. So I'm not ruling Jefferson out still. It sounds like he's here to stay from the article that he's had with Andrew French today as well, which is available on the Watford Observer website for everyone to read. So I'm fully behind Jefferson still. I'm fully backing him and supporting him, and he just needs a goal. He really does need a goal. And look, if Watford do find themselves in a situation in the next couple of weeks or so, and we're like 2-0 up and we get a penalty, please give it to Daniel Jefferson. Because the boy needs a goal, and I think that will do him absolutely wonders. Whether he would want to take it or not, with his confidence at the moment, is a different matter. But I would love to see him get the opportunity to score from a penalty kick if we were like 2-0 up and the result was pretty much in the bag, maybe.
It's interesting to say that.
Sorry, can I just point something else out as well? Sorry, it's just worth mentioning that he didn't come in very early in the summer, so he's not had the chance to be integrated within the team. It was mentioned to me yesterday by my friend who I go to football with. He said, he's not had the minutes over the summer to get integrated within the team. Had he come in before the start of the season, we might have seen Jefferson in those League Cup games, and he might have scored then, and he might have more confidence. So to come in late in the window after, obviously I don't know what the situation was as to why he didn't come in earlier or whatever.
He played the League Cup game for Bournemouth, didn't he? In the end, they wanted to keep him for that. So yeah.
So he has come in a situation where it's, as I said, late on, and he's not had a chance to sort of have that time with the squad that everybody else has. So that's also made it tougher for him. So yeah, I hope he starts on New Year's Day at QPR. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, to play devil's advocate, that would then go back to the failings of the recent transfer windows. If Watford have identified him as a target and cleverly has said he's the man that we've wanted all along, why did we wait so long to go and get him? So it's frustrating. There's so many sort of pieces in that jigsaw as to why. I
don't think it's down to Watford sometimes as well. I know we're saying why didn't Watford go and get him, but there's so many things need to be aligned for Watford to sign players sometimes, and they might identify a player like Daniel Jefferson, but Bournemouth would be like, we can only allow him to go if we sign a player, and then they signed that Brazilian striker towards the end of the transfer window, which then freed up Daniel Jefferson to move on. So it's easy for all of us to say, like Championship Football Manager or FIFA saying, we'll just go out and sign someone, but it's not as easy as that. Sometimes we have to wait for the chess pieces to line up for us to make our move to actually get someone in. So I think as Watford fans, we need to kind of not be like, why can't we just go get him? It's not as easy as that sometimes, and we have to wait our turn in effect.
Yeah, no, fair point. You mentioned now a minute ago, Ben, about if we were to get a penalty, maybe putting him on it if we were sort of 2-0 up or we were good as sort of winning the game. I think Frankie Holiday tweeted to say next penalty we get, stick Jebbo on it. But I'm with you. I'm like, only if we're winning. Like, because look, the same happened with Bio, didn't it? We got a penalty against Sheffield Wednesday. Ince took the first one and scored it, and then we got another one a few minutes later, and they were like, right, well, we're already a few ahead, give it to Bio, and then he went and scored 4 in the game. So, it's crazy how it works. And to be honest, I think Jefferson would take one sort of scraping off the tip of his stud off the bottom of his. You thought I was going to say something else, then. This is a family-friendly show, Ben. A
Ray Birmingham goal.
Exactly. Yeah, I think he'd take that. He'd absolutely take that. And look, I don't want him to fail. I think it's obvious a lot of Watford fans have written him off already, and that's fair enough. That's their opinion. But I mean, I'm just gutted Cam's not here because I think a few of the other shouts that have been mentioned on social media, I think Cam would want to put the world to rights. But That actually brings us on nicely to where we're going to finish, just in terms of where do we go from here. You know, it's January in 2 days' time. Transfer window opens up again. In terms of a striker, there's a lot of people saying bring Rajovic back, because I think there's a clause. Is there a clause to that we could bring him back if we wanted to? We'll not get into that, because that's just a different can of worms, and I think it would be a horrendous idea. But is there anyone out there that maybe catches your eye, Ben? I know you had a name, and you actually think that you've both got the same name, but Ben, you do the honours and you go first and see if it's the same name as what Joe's got. I think I know who you're going to say, by the way.
I've actually got two. So I've got two positions. I've got a striker and a centre midfielder now. Just because the centre midfielder's been awful lately, haven't they? And Loser can't do it on his own. So the striker is Tom Cannon.
Okay.
Oh, what? No, that's not happening.
I don't know. I don't know if they'd let him go. He's on fire at the moment.
I know. Well, he's on loan from Leicester to Stoke. He is scoring a lot of goals, but Stoke have just recently sacked their manager as well. And I've seen an article today that Sheffield United are sniffing around him because Leicester want to recall him. If they want to recall him, I would snap him up in a heartbeat, because I really liked him when he was at Preston, and he's gone to Stoke, a struggling Stoke side who have just sacked their manager, and he's been banging in the goals for them as well. And he doesn't score tap-ins. He can score any kind of goal that you want. He could lead the line, he could press, and he can score a goal. So he would be my striker. I'm guessing it wasn't the person you was both thinking of then?
No, Joe. Who was the name on your mind?
Mine was a certain young man that's currently out on loan in League One at the moment, who's going to be recalled by Aston Villa, Mr. Barry.
Yeah, but he's not a striker. He plays more out on the left. So like where Vata would be deployed, because I don't think he would be out and out striker.
He would be mine, and like Ben said, I've got a midfielder. I actually think we need to go and get Ben Whiteman this window as well. I don't think Preston will let him go. He's someone who I've thought's been good in the Championship, and I think he's wasted in that Preston team, in my opinion. I think he could do well. Obviously, it's a bit of a big move for him coming down south, but I think it'd suit our team, and I think he'd be great with Loser in the midfield. But they're not. Unfortunately, we can sit here and talk about these fantastic players, but they're not Pozo signings.
Well, this is it. I think I've seen a couple of shouts already on Twitter from various people. We need that sort of Ben Watson, Matthew Connolly, Sebastian Bassong, similar ilk type of players that come in January, know the league, and do a job for us. Because at the moment, we are really screaming out for that. And if we had someone like that in the midfield, we'd be a lot better off. And I was meant to have a look before we came live as to who might be available on the free market in January, or on loan, who could be an option in that midfield, because I don't think we'll spend any money, because why will we break a habit of a lifetime? But if there's someone out there that sort of knows the league, has maybe played in the league before, then I can absolutely see the Pozzos doing that, because they've done that before. So it'd be interesting to see, do we maybe re-explore, again, he's not an out-and-out striker, but do we maybe re-explore the Ali Al-Amadi links, easy for me to say, from Ipswich, because he's not, I don't know if I don't think he's been playing, although I did get a notification to say that Ipswich were leading against Chelsea at the moment. So I don't know if he's playing that game, but he, they're 2-0 up, aren't they? Bloody hell. But yeah, he's not playing that game. So he's on the bench, but he hasn't really played much this season. So could we see him come in? Another one who I would quite like, but he's probably not going to happen. And I actually think he's a Stoke player. So this might be a domino effect for what Ben has said. So we probably won't see him at all. Stoke have got a young lad out on loan at Walsall at the moment who's
That's who I was
absolutely
thinking of
ripping
as
it.
well. Mm.
Yeah, is it Lowe? That's it. Nathan Lowe, I think. Is it Nathan
Yeah,
Lowe?
he's scored a hatful, hasn't he, already?
So
They're
if
top of
Aaron
League Two as
goes,
well, Walsall.
who? Sorry.
Walsall are top of League Two, I want to say.
Yeah, they're
Absolutely smashing
just
it.
that Notts County are second, I think, and they're closer to 18th than they are top of the league. So
Wow.
yeah, it's they're absolutely flowing at the moment, and that's great to see. Hopefully, see them back in League One. But
I've got a midfielder who I wouldn't mind coming to the club, and it's possibly a Pozzo signing. It's someone who's been at the club before, a central midfielder who's in the Premier League, who's not getting any game time. He's only got 4 appearances for Leicester. I would look to bring back Hamza Chowdhury on loan for the rest of the season. Someone who would maybe be a bit more of an enforcer, someone who could get stuck in just to help out in that midfield with Imran Loser. Let Imran Loser just to ping it about, but get Chowdhury onto the heels of the other midfielders and snap away. We haven't got a player like that in our team, and I think we are missing a Hamza Chowdhury type player.
That's not a bad shout at all, to be honest. I know he's come on a couple of times since Rude took over. But you, Joe, you liking the sound of that? Would you welcome Hamza back with open arms? Because his time at Watford was, he was like Marmite. I think he really was split down the middle, the opinion on Hamza's time at Watford. Some fans loved him and some were like, nah, send him back. So
Yeah, there was some game. Yeah, like you say, there were games where he really stood out and played well, and others I was quite disappointed. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be the worst signing. I wouldn't be really disappointed. I'd need to. I'll be honest. I've not usually have a proper look going into these windows to see who's doing what and who's kind of sitting on benches, not really doing anything. But yeah, I think Chowdhury. Yeah, I don't think it'd be the worst signing. I think we should, like I say, I really think we should go for someone more permanent. And I think probably how many loan signings can you have in a season nowadays? I never know what the rule is on limit to how many.
no, well, it changes that often. I mean, who's we got at the moment?
We've got Bio.
We're wasting one with Tipvich.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we've got him on loan.
Forgot about Tikvich. Well,
Yeah.
you know what'll happen? We'll send him back and we'll get some midfielder that's not playing for Udinese. I'm just looking at their squad.
Get Hassan Kamara back.
No, absolutely not. No way, Jose.
What would you both say about Emmanuel Dennis coming back on a permanent contract? Obviously, he's not kicked a ball for Nottingham Forest, so he would come back in unfit. He would need time to get back up to speed. Would you welcome him come back and maybe play a bit of football from March, April, May to try and help us forward?
Providing the Watford fans on social media understood that he hasn't played in a long time and he would take time to get used to, take time to get match fit, I would absolutely take him back. Because on his day, if he's fully fit, match ready, he could easily be one of the best players in the Championship, not just at Watford. So, yes, but it would have to be under the bravado that, you know, we understand that he's not kicked the ball and for Nottingham Forest. I think the last game he played was a pre-season game. So, yeah, that would be my take on it. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, like you say, he's got to be on the understanding that he's not played for a long time. He needs to get match fit, and he's not going to be coming in. People, Watford fans, seeing on Twitter, where the fuck is Emmanuel Dennis? You know, we've had him for 2 months. Like, why is he not featuring? Like, some people need their heads wobbling sometimes when you see stuff like that. But yeah, it'd be the same with Delafeu. You know, I've seen a lot about Delafeu. I saw him actually put out a post. I think it was on Twitter, saying that he wants to get back in 2025. I think, you know, I do actually I do keep an eye on that side in Italy at Udinese, and I do think it's going to be tough for him to sort of get the minutes and get into that team with the players that they've got. And I do think that if the Pozzos look at it and he wants to get fit, I do think the option would be preferable that he came to Watford to get that fitness and get some game time before the end of the season to then get back into the Udinese squad for next summer. So I do believe that there is that option there. But again, it would be the same as Dennis. Like he's had a serious injury. He's going to take a bit of time. We probably wouldn't see him until maybe mid-end of March. But I wouldn't hate that. But yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on those two.
I don't know if I'd touch Deulofeu. I think he's had 2 ACLs, hasn't he?
Same.
He had the ACL against Liverpool in that 3-0 win. And then he had an ACL again when he come back at Udinese. For me, the memories have been there. He was great servant to the club. Absolutely love him. I think if he came back, it would just absolutely ruin the sort of tarnish the reputation he's got. I don't think I'd touch him. He won't be the same player again. Look, if it happens, then yeah, I'd support him, but he just wouldn't be the same player. I think if we're looking at Udinese players, not to go off on a tangent here, but one man who I know Cam absolutely adores as well, who, funnily enough, he's also injured at the moment, I would slap your hand off at Keenan Davis back. I think he would suit the system to the ground. Keenan Davis would absolutely be perfect in this system if you're playing one up front. Not 2 up front, Mark, don't worry. If you're playing one up front, then Keenan Davis would be superb. But Ben, you look like you were going to agree about Deulofeu.
Yeah, Deulofeu, I wouldn't want to tarnish the memories that we got of Deulofeu. Like, what a special player, and one of the best players that we would see in maybe a Watford shirt, and the moments he created. If he re-signed off the back of 2 ACLs, we would not see the same Deulofeu that we saw before. His pace is gone. He's probably lost a bit of trickery as well. And I don't think he would be as good. So if there was an option of Emmanuel Dennis or Deulofeu, I would have Emmanuel Dennis. I think he could probably offer a little bit more, and I'll just worry that Deulofeu would break down because he got over like an ACL at Udinese, and he came back for a couple of games, and then didn't he have another terrible one? So he couldn't even string a few games together, and I really worry about him. I think his footballing career is over, and I hope it isn't. I hope he's able to come back and play some kind of football somewhere. But the demanding league like the Championship, I don't think is for him. But Serie A would probably be better because of the slow paceness. But yeah, it's a struggle. And I agree with you. I'd probably give Keenan Davis another go. I just think he would add something different to our team, a different dimension. Someone who can actually hold the ball up. We've seen him hold the ball up before. He can hold the ball incredibly well. His main issues before was his finishing, but he still scored some goals in a really poor Watford side.
7
with team for players we've got in and around him now. Chapverdassi, okay, he doesn't release the ball as much as he should, but he would still feed him. So would Vata, so would Barr. I think Keenan Davis would do incredibly well in his Watford side.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and completely agree with what you said about Deulofeu. I mean, if it's slow-paced football he wants, he could go and play for Luton in League One next season, or even Portsmouth back in League One next season. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Joe's like, oh God, I live in Portsmouth, so yeah. Sorry, Joe, I think I've just put a death warrant out for you in Portsmouth, mate, I'm afraid. But
just put a breath through his window.
Yeah, just heard it. Yeah, but yeah, and then I think just to wrap up on the only sort of little bit of actual transfer news is that Watford look like they want to sell Ken Sema for £1 million in January. I think Malmo were linked, but we're not sure whether they'd pay that money. It's not a surprise. I think the last game he was on the bench for was Bristol City, and then he come on in the last knock-ins at the Plymouth game. Just quickly to wrap it up, Joe, not a massive surprise. He's not been in the squad recently, and I think it's the right time to move on, don't you?
Yeah, I do believe it definitely is probably the right time to move on. I do think the Pozzos of wishful thinking, £1 million for a geezer who's got 6 months left on his contract, who's probably the wrong side of 30 now. But yeah, he's been a great servant. You know, he said it. I think we said it in the summer pod that we did, where we were talking about players and who should feature and who shouldn't. And we said then that his time probably should have been up in the summer. But yeah, I've got no I hope that if there was a strong chance of him leaving, and a move does materialise, that he gets included in the squad before, or they at least bring him out of Vicarage Road, because I do think it'd be nice to say goodbye to him properly, because he's been a loyal servant. He's done a lot for the community at Watford, and he's done a lot behind the scenes, not just on the pitch. So yeah, it'd be good to sort of say thank you properly.
No, I completely agree. I think that pretty much sums up, Ken Sema. He's a lovely bloke. He's had that season in lockdown was probably his best season at the club, and he was loved by the club. King Ken, the nickname he was given, and I was there at Swansea when we shouldn't have won, but we did, and he pulled out an absolute screamer, and I'll be forever grateful. So, yeah, I'd be obviously disappointed to see him go, but only from a perspective of how much of a nice bloke he is. I think footballing wise, now is absolutely the right time. He's not long got married. I don't know if he's had a kid as well recently. So maybe moving back to Sweden might be best for him. But I think that's probably where we'll wrap it up, because we've been going for an hour and 21 minutes. The last few podcasts have been a little bit longer, but we hope nonetheless you've still enjoyed them. And that is it for 2024 here on Voice of the Vic. And we just want to say a massive thank you from myself, Ben, Joe, Katie, Cam. Cam, you said who? Cam, yeah, he's still on this podcast. Don't know when he'll be next time. But yeah, it's been another great year doing these podcasts. We're 4 years into it now. The fourth year just boxed off. Like I say, the last one of 2024. Still can't quite believe that we're going. But it's down to you guys. I mean, we've had a lot of comments, even if half of them is Anthony winding up our watchers and listeners. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to do this. So whether you love it, whether you hate it, whether you watch still, regardless, the reason we're doing it is because of you guys. So thank you very, very much for your support in 2024. Hopefully 2025 can bring us a bit of cheer. It'd be nice to do another sort of promotion podcast. We absolutely loved that one back in lockdown, and we love doing these regardless of if we win, lose or draw. Thank you, Melanie. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button at the bottom of the video. Make sure you've hit subscribed as well. We've broke through the back of the 600 mark, so I think we're on 604 now. It's the road now to 1K. I know it's 400 off. I'm not going to say by next Christmas. It's just the roads to 1K now. That would be amazing. But yeah, we'll speak to you again in the new year. So whatever your plan is tomorrow, have a happy new year. Have a prosperous new year as well. And we'll see you next year. But yeah, come on, you Horns.